Is it just me? Or can you hear like 1970s cop theme music in your head?
Yes.
Let's go down the road.
We are in the Datsun 240Z, and if you've been watching the Ants First Classic series, you'll know that this is my dream classic car. Now, you might be thinking, why is James driving this if this is part of Ants First Classic series? Well, I have spent some time in the car, and actually James hasn't had a chance to drive it at all, and he was desperate to get behind the wheel. So if you want to hear my first driving impressions, head on over to Sports and Touring after this video, and you'll be able to see the smile that it puts on my face on my first drive. But for now, let's go, James. Now, I never expected that I'd get to ride in one of these this soon in the series, but somehow it's happened.
It has, though this isn't quite your dream 240Z, because that is the highly modified MZR?
MZR Road Sports, yes. They have a number of different versions, and they are bespoke builds. They're essentially a resto mod where you can specify what you want in the car, whether it's the engine or the suspension, brakes, you name it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, those builds are quite expensive.
This one, though, is exactly the opposite, because this is Nissan UK's very own heritage fleet 240Z that they restored a few years ago. And it's basically the Z as it was meant to be. No mods, no alterations, just pure, unadulterated 1970s joy. This is my first go in this car, and I already love it. If you don't buy one, I think I might have to.
Go halvesies with you.
Mate, let's do it. Now, the funny thing is that I have driven a 240Z before, but the one I drove was heavily modified, and that was a number of years ago. It was my first exposure to the 240, which is a car that I've always really admired, but somehow I just kept forgetting. You know those cars out there, when you see it, you love everything about it, but for some reason it just doesn't stick with you. But every time I see one, I just think, you know what, that in so many ways is just the perfect classic.
It is indeed, and this one has some special meaning for me because this car is a 1974 car, which is within a couple of years of when I was actually born. Yes, I'm slightly older than this car. And the original car was brought out in 1969, the same year as the GTR badge was introduced on the Skylines. So that 1969 year is quite an important year. This is one of the later cars, 1973 I think, but registered here in 74. And for me, it's like owning a car that was created around the time that I was actually born. It's something, because I used to see these driving around on the street. My dad used to call these a poor man's Ferrari, because they essentially had that beautiful styling, that front-engined GT look to them, but obviously, being Japanese, was not going to be quite as expensive. And the price of these originally was around £2,900. So this was less than half the price of an equivalent Ferrari, although obviously the equivalent Ferrari had a bigger engine.
Yeah, that'll be the 275. Great car, but today, I think you'd pay about 1 to 2 million. I've definitely seen them up for about 2 million quid. So I think probably we can agree beyond budget for the Ants First Classic series.
Indeed, but I'd rather have one of these if I'm honest. Now these go for around the 30,000 mark upwards, but at that point you are getting a car that's likely to need a fair bit of work. If you want to get a very good example, you're looking at 50 to 55,000 for a 240Z. And if you're then going for an absolute mint condition, in perfect working order car, you're looking in the 60s to 70s. If you want an MZR second hand, they start at around 75,000. If you want them to build one for you, it's price on application.
But I think there's a lot to be said for getting what you'd call a rolling restoration. You know, something that works, runs, drives and everything, but you know, you are going to want to do bits too. You know what though? There is so much about this car that is just absolutely right, not just in general, but also for you. Now, the last car we featured in this series was the BMW Z3M Coupe, which is quite a bit newer, but like that and the car we started with, my own Ferrari 550 Maranello, there's a bit of a thread running here because these are all two-seater front-engined cars with nice naturally aspirated lumps, 12 in the Ferrari, a 6 in the BMW, and in this, from which the car gets its name, 240 because it's a 2.4. Straight 6 with a trio of carburetors. And when this thing comes down the road, the induction noise is amazing.
It's great, I love it. And that's part of the experience of these older cars. It's that more mechanical, more raw, more connected experience. The fact that you feel like you and the car are one. Now, I used to think that my preference for cars that were quite raw with heavy steering and heavy suspension or stiff suspension was because I wanted a race car. But when I drove a couple of Bristols back in the day, and you can see that on this very channel, I realized that actually the reason that I love those types of cars is more because they give me something that a classic would give me. That connection with the car, the smells of the car. You know, you drive for about an hour in this and you get out wondering if maybe if someone lights a match near you, you're going to go up in flames because you're literally soaked in petrol fumes. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, no need to decat this. I've never had one. I think you're very right there in saying that, look, yeah, it's lovely having something that's an incredibly good performer, but as people are keen to point out, these are road cars built for a road which is no wider than it was back in 1969, now has more speed limits than it did back in 1969, and we both spent last week driving the incredible GTR Nismo, one of the fastest, most capable cars you could ever imagine. This has got a quarter of the power, 150 horsepower, not much torque. Now, it doesn't weigh a lot. I think it's just over a ton, give or take.
Yeah, just around 1,050-ish.
Yeah, so, but what you get is a car that requires a lot more from you as a driver to ultimately give you less, but it means it's just a more engaging experience all the time. You have to think about everything that you do, and yeah, day to day that might get a little bit frustrating, but if you're in the mood...
I think that I would always be in the mood, because every day that I've driven this car for the last few days, it doesn't matter what the journey was, I had a smile on my face. There's something about it that just makes you feel happy. Yeah. I can't explain it. And then when you do get to a country road and you then get to put your foot down, you get to hear this lovely engine.
Pulls really well. Now, I think you're right. You buy one of these and your biggest expense is going to be the plastic surgeon.
It just makes you just constantly smile. I think I've added about 10 years worth of wrinkles to my
you got crow's feet now.
Yeah, exactly. Might actually have crow's feet in my 50s, who knows. When you are driving it on a road like this, you're going into the corner, you're having to anticipate the braking point much more, because the brakes just don't do as much as they do in a modern car.
Yeah.
You get on the power, you squeeze it on as you're going through, you hear the sound of that engine, that lovely classic car sounding pull that you get.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we're going through there at about 50 mile an hour, and it's a 60 limit, and you can feel you're kind of you're sort of on the edge. Yeah. You're like, you feel real hunkered down. This thing's so low. The door handle's on the floor, and it's really period correct vinyl everywhere. But also, this is quite a practical car. Now, it's got no central locking, as your son found out the other day. No air conditioning other than the manually operated one here in the door, which I'm going to just do while we go through the village. But quite practical. You got a lot of space out the back.
Yep.
I think you can still get bits for these, and mechanically, it's simple.
Yes.
Right? Whatever breaks on this car, you can fix it.
You could probably fix it with a hammer and a spanner. And a splash of WD-40.
WD-40 and duct tape, and if that can't fix it, well, just replace it.
Exactly.
Is it just me? Or can you hear like 1970s cop theme music in your head?
Yes.
Let's go down the road.
Well, I'll tell you what I can hear is the theme tune from Wangan Midnights, where the Devil Z was iconic in modern car pop culture. Honestly, this is a part of the lore of this car. It is a car that has been revered and appreciated, I think, for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know I'm not really going that fast over here, and I'm having to concentrate a lot because it moves around. You can feel the suspension's not particularly sophisticated, although for its day it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's fully independent all round. I think it's McPherson strut up the front, Chapman strut at the back. And it's simple, but it's so communicative. You can tell what it's doing. And there are cars of this era, which, let's face it, it's a 60s car, right?
Yeah.
There are cars of this era which I'll drive and I'll enjoy, but put your foot down and lean on, you don't really trust them, particularly when you know there are consequences if you get it wrong, you know.
Oh, this feels quite modern in its balance.
Yeah.
I would say. Obviously, not so modern in terms of how much lean you get. Part of that is because of the huge tyre walls. Part of that is just the older suspension.
Yeah, but that's how they drove.
Yeah.
And this is also a car where, you know, if we have one of our track days, you know, Radiator Arms track days.
Oh, this would be hilarious.
You would got to bring this, right? Because you're going to want to know, right? You're going to want to see if you get that heroic drift round a bend. But more than that, you know what? There's plenty of space in here. You can retrofit air conditioning to it, which is easily done. You got lots of space in the boot.
Yep.
Like, you don't have a commute, right? So if you drive, basically, you can enjoy the drive, and this is an enjoyable drive. Like, this is so much fun.
This is the car that I would leave about an hour earlier so that I could, say, avoid motorways and take the squiggliest route across roads like this. Because it is just so much fun to drive. I certainly would want to probably invest a little bit in upgrading the brakes, because the brakes do, let's just say, not work quite as well as a modern car. And I would probably want to upgrade the suspension just a little bit. Not too much though, because I wouldn't want to take the character of the car away.
No.
Just to give it,
just modernise it, just a hair. You know, brakes, wheels, tyres, that sort of thing. You know, just again, and sometimes it's just a case of giving you better selection. You know, just giving you more options and things. And yeah, I mean, basically, as long as it's even vaguely dry, like, you can have a lot of fun in this.
But the big problem with this car right now for me is how much it costs to get into one. Because for my first classic, I don't want to get something that is cheap and requires lots of restoration, because that's just a lot of money spent restoring the car. I would like to get a car that is a restored, moddable car. That's what I'd want. I want the chassis and the engine to be pretty much there.
Yeah.
And then what I spend on the car is those little fine tuning things.
You want some solid foundations.
Yes.
You don't want to start getting into rust repair and stuff, because that gets expensive very quickly.
Exactly. So I think I need a car that is perhaps a little less desirable as my first classic. However, this is going to stay on my list of dream classic cars for the future. And even if I can't get an MZR Road Sports version, I definitely will want to get something like this.
Yeah, and that's why I was so glad to be able to get you into this, because I know the Road Sports is the one you want. I know previously on the podcast you'd said that maybe the only one you'd want would be a Road Sports.
No, I've changed my mind now.
Good. And also, there's nothing to say you can't get one of these now and then get the Road Sports.
100%. Thank you for joining us. If you want to experience my first drive, then please do head on over to Sports and Touring, where you can find out more. And if you want to hear us talking more about cars, including with our friend Will, head on over to the podcast on this very channel, the Radiator Arms. Other than that, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.